Eating real nutritious food is one of the simplest yet most impactful things that you can do to improve your health or maintain good health. When you think about just how high of an input food is into the health equation, it dominates pretty much every category. When you think about exercise, or you think about maybe meditation or stress relief activities, or really anything when it comes to actively adding to or detracting from your health, food is such a huge piece of this pie, no pun intended. And as a dietitian, I know just how important, down to a cellular level, how important and critical nutrients are to our function, and how, all the best ways to reap that from food. And I try and share so much of that here on my channel so that I can help other people to understand it better, to take ownership of that information and really apply it to their own lives. But I will also tell you, as a busy mom, that this is no easy feat. Creating, cooking, sourcing all real food, it's a big undertaking. But at the same time, how could it not be a big undertaking when you think about just the sheer quantity of food that we consume, just the sheer size of that input into our health? And we have kind of been led astray as a society or in our culture, where we have been kind of told that we can make this, big switch where we can, instead of spending a lot of time sourcing and cooking and preparing food, we can just buy prepackaged, already prepared, most likely, or I would say most often of the time, processed foods, which will save us a lot of time, but will lack the nutrient density and also will include a lot of additives that are man-made, lab-made, that our body doesn't necessarily know exactly what to do with, that you would not find in simple, whole, real food, especially when it's raised the way that nature intended. There will be a lot more nutrition found in that food, a lot more nutrients for your body to utilize for all of the different processes that it needs those nutrients for. And it's not going to contain any of those additives, like I said, that our bodies weren't necessarily designed to handle in large quantities on a consistent basis. And we live in an age where everyone is so busy and everything is so fast-paced and everyone is moving in a million different directions at the same time. And what's interesting to me is, when you look at generations past, it's not that they weren't busy. They were also busy and they also had so much to do every single day. But what's different about our busyness now is it's mostly busyness outside of the home. It's activities that pull us away from our homes. So we, over time, have just lost the time that we've had to put towards things like cooking our meals.
Creating healthier eating habits can absolutely transform your health, but actually forming new habits and therefore making real change that is sustainable can be really difficult, which is why I am so excited to tell you guys about today's video sponsor, Nourish. Nourish is the easiest way to find and speak to a registered dietitian and have it all covered by your insurance. Those of you that know my story know that I actually started out my career as an RD doing one-on-one nutrition counseling, so I can tell you firsthand just how incredibly valuable it is to be able to talk through what you're doing now, where you're trying to get to, and they can really help help you not only equip you with the evidence-based knowledge, but to actually tailor it to your specific life so that you can make these changes in a way that's doable and sustainable. What I really love about Nourish is their dietitians want to help you create sustainable, lifelong skills when it comes to healthy eating. So that's no quick fixes, no fad diets, just actually doing the work to become healthier. No matter what you want to focus on, maybe it's gut health, maybe it's general women's health, maybe it's nutrition for athletic training or prenatal nutrition. Maybe you have diabetes or want a better relationship with food. Working with a dietitian is truly invaluable when it comes to creating healthy changes that are actually going to fit into your unique lifestyle. Nourish accepts hundreds of different insurances throughout all 50 states. In fact, 94% of their patients pay $0 out of pocket. So it's kind of a no-brainer, especially if you are someone who really wants preventative instead of reactive healthcare and to make true lasting change when it comes to your eating habits. So if you want to check out Nourish for yourself, I will leave a link for you guys in the description box below. You can sign up in just 5 minutes and get started with your first appointment.
In our society, we don't really allot, like I said, a lot of time for cooking real food, which means that as the time decreases that we spend on making food from simple ingredients, the amount of processed food, the amount of that. Now, as we spend less and less time on cooking real food with simple ingredients, we obviously have kind of this inverse relationship with consuming more processed food or maybe food from restaurants, because it certainly is much faster to pick up takeout or literally have it delivered to your door, or, hit a drive-through on the way home to grab something to eat. That is much faster. And the thing with food is it's not something we can just skip. It goes back to just the high input, just how much food we have to eat to live, right? It's just something that is so ingrained in our daily life, and it's just not something we can go without. So if we don't have the time to put towards healthy food, then we have really no choice, right? Than to go for the processed or, prepared packaged foods or restaurant foods. And you guys know that I am very much for balance. I am not a purist by any means because it has to be sustainable, right? But what's really interesting about this dynamic is not only are we not consuming food that is very nutrient dense and is going to, give us this vibrant health, we end up spending more on this food that doesn't actually offer us much. So you may think that hitting the drive-through is quick, it's convenient, and it doesn't necessarily cost a ton of money. But the amount that you're paying for the very little nutrients found in that food, when you really look at it, actually makes no sense other than it's just simply faster and it's simply more convenient. But here's the thing with convenience food. It is, simply put, it's a trap. Because while you may be saving time now or saving energy now by hitting the drive-through, getting the takeout, what's going to happen later, though, is it's actually going to cost you so much of your precious time and so much of your precious energy, because if you continue on that way for a prolonged period of time, it really doesn't even take that much time, because eating processed food instantly, I know for myself, makes me feel worse. And I think there are probably a lot of people who don't even realize how good they could feel if they were to eat real food and have energy and, robust digestion and, be just getting all the nutrients that your body needs to thrive. But when you continue to eat this way over a prolonged period of time, disease will start to set in. Systems will start to break down. Processes won't be able to fire. And our body is so incredible in the way that it was designed, where everything is so synergistic and you need this process in order for that one to go. And it's kind of like a domino effect. And you might just think it's, just maybe it's not the healthiest thing, but it's what I can do. If it's not just in a pinch and that becomes the habit, then you will start lacking the vital nutrients that your body needs in order to thrive. But then eventually you're going to get to the point where your body is lacking the nutrients it needs to actually survive. And you will start to have consequences with your health. And I am a big believer that health is wealth. And when you start having health issues, it's going to take a drain on your time. It's going to drain your energy. It's going to take a toll on your quality of life, and you're not going to be able to do all the things that you want to do. So it ends up robbing you of time and energy later. So when you think about it, it's just purely a decision. Do I want to save the time now and maybe lose it later? Or do I want to spend the time now and have a better chance of having it later? And, we're all different and we have different circumstances, and I am certainly not here to judge, but I do hope that I can encourage you to maybe make the decisions more often than not to spend the time now and save that time, and, in hopes that we'll have that time and that vitality later. And what's so interesting about spending time on food and preparing food, sourcing healthy food, cooking healthy food, and, doing it all with just simple, basic ingredients, not only is it going to provide your body the nutrition that it needs, but it's going to save you money. So when you think about, again, you go back to the convenience foods and how much you're spending for the amount of nutrients, it just simply doesn't make sense. And I know that, people have very busy schedules, and that is not something that can be changed overnight. But if it is something that is a priority for you, if there's a will, there's a way. And even small changes add up. It does not have to be this big 180 massive life change in order for you to see benefit. It can be something as simple as starting to make your own loaves of bread, or starting to put dinner in the crock pot in the morning before you leave for work so that you're not scrambling or you're not picking something up on the way home. Or maybe it's just starting the day with a healthy breakfast to start your day off right, or learning to actually properly wash and store your produce so that it never goes to waste. Or maybe you need to switch up the way that you meal plan. Maybe instead of sitting down and coming up with a bunch of meals and then shopping for all of those individual ingredients and kind of going through a somewhat painstaking process, maybe you just start cooking with things that you have on hand, and you just make up really simple meals to fill the bellies and not put much more energy into it than that. And that's fine too. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be perfect or, even something that is fairly intense. It can be so simple, and I always encourage people to start small, one little habit at a time, master it, make it customary to your routine, and then move on to the next. And I don't know about you, but as far as my time goes, I can't really think of many other things that are worth my time than improving and maintaining health and the health of my family. So I hope that you guys found this video helpful. If you're new, I would love for you to subscribe. And if so, I will see you in the next video. Bye.